And people say to me, if England play Australia in the World Cup, who would you support?
I didn't expect you to say that. The universe
Doing its thing. Yeah.
Such amazing ways.
It's testing you. I came with very little money. I lived in a share house, believe it or not. Rented a bedroom from someone for $50 a week. Sometimes I disagree, but I never win.
Welcome back to another episode of That Backyard Property Pod. Today, the energy is really high. I'm so pumped about this one. I've got Neil Gibb, podcaster, father, business owner of multiple businesses, and just a genuine visionary. So welcome, Neil Gibb, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure.
It's good to have you. I feel like I might actually learn something from you today, not just about your business, but also about just general podcasting.
Definitely no expert, mate. I'm the same as you. I just like getting in front of people and asking them some questions and making that connection.
And that's what we were talking about before, the connection. Phones away, two people just genuinely connecting over different things. Yeah. So we'll dive into a couple of different things today. I'm really excited about talking about HMO. It's obviously your bread and butter and what you've done so well over the last couple of years. But firstly, let's talk about what home means. You're building so many homes and you're creating so many homes for people. But for you, what does home mean for you?
Yeah. When I seen that question, I thought, wow, what a great question that actually is, because I think everybody's interpretation or the way they articulate what that actually is will be different. The homes that we provide to the market are essentially shelters for people, which they can find certainty and comfort and belonging in. But for me, home is where my heart is. It's where my wife and my kids are, and it's the place that I go to re-energize and reset and recharge every day.
And is there an element of home, because you're not originally from Australia, and so is there an element of the UK that you're trying to bring here as home? Like how do you bridge that gap?
Well, if you come in my office, you'll notice that like 80% of my team are actually English, which is bizarre. Mate, I absolutely love this country. It's given me so much, and I moved here when I was 27. I'm now 42, so I'm almost at that part where I've lived 50-50. Yeah. And people say to me, if England play Australia in the World Cup, who would you support? And I'd really be sitting on the fence, just wanting both teams to do really well, because
I didn't expect you to say that.
Both countries have given me so much, right? So obviously I was born in the UK, but the pull to come to Australia from what looked in the brochure like great beaches and great weather, which we do have, but then the opportunities, the people, the energy of this place. I absolutely love it. My wife loves it. I'm so proud that my kids have been born here, and you're stuck with me now, mate.
Well, especially when your kids are born here, like that, they'll probably go for Australia and the Wallabies.
Yeah,
maybe.
I hope they do. I really do, mate. Like I say, I've got no sort of gripe about which one they go for. As long as they like football, that's the only thing I want.
Yeah. It's hard with the time zone in some of that. And so I guess you set up home, like, did you come over with much? Like, I'm always fascinated by people that make such a huge decision to go somewhere that you might not have been to Perth, let alone Australia, maybe before moving here. What was that like?
The first I'd been from England was Spain, which was a 2-hour flight. And so there was, when my mum and dad split up back in the day, my mum married a guy called Mitch, who's been the real driving force of my life. Mitch always said to me, get yourself a trade, son, because at the time I was 11 or 12, a little bit lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah. Get yourself a trade, son, that you'll always be required anywhere in the world. You can work anywhere. So chase the money and do the thing. Yeah. So in the back of my mind, Australia was always something where I wanted to go. And off the back of the GFC in the UK, everything started getting a little bit difficult. In 2010, I decided to up stumps and came over here literally with one bag of clothes, my passport and my toothbrush. And the rest is history, mate. I'm still here.
It's amazing. And the reason I asked that is because I after uni, I moved to Singapore and with just a bag. Yeah. That's it.
It's amazing what you can do when you've got so little, right?
Yeah. And that's also when you start to learn the art of talking to people, because people from different backgrounds, different nationalities, different cultures, and you just have to try and fit in some ways, and you learn a lot about yourself as well.
Yeah, and you literally have nothing. You've got no friends, you've got no family. I came with very little money, and I lived in a share house, believe it or not. Rented a bedroom from someone for $50 a week. And if it wasn't for that opportunity to rent something for that price point, I probably wouldn't be here today, because they had all my gas, water, electric was included, internet. They had a printer in the house, so I could transfer all my skills from the English equivalent to the Australian equivalent, because I came as an electrician. Yeah. And that affordable option of housing is the reason that I'm here today. And I had no idea that I was going to build a business out of it so many years later.
That's Winston Churchill is massive. Like, everything I've read about him is just huge, about the moments that you've had in previous part of your life is just building you up towards what moment you're in right now. And as soon as you said that, it just reminds me so much of that, because you've lived in a share house, you've moved here, and now what you've created for so many more people. And as you said, your goal is 10,000 people to create that for. That's an amazing journey to get to that stage.
Yeah, I obviously had no idea that was how it was going to transpire when I first landed here. Like I say, I came as an electrician, and my dream was to just work in a different country and earn some good money, which I ended up doing. I ended up working offshore in Western Australia as an electrician, which the money was incredible. But we get what we call lifestyle creep, where my lifestyle increased to keep up with the income, and I was just as skint as I was when I earned 20 grand a year.
Yeah. And then obviously it takes us to HMO.
Yes.
Talk to me the story.
Well, like I say, I ended up working offshore, and I remember getting the call to go from, I'd been on the Gorgon project. That was a good project. I went to Papua New Guinea. That was another good project. But there was this pull to just always want to be offshore. I don't know what it was. I think it was the roster and the money. But I remember landing on that platform offshore. It was the Wheatstone project for Chevron. First day there, I stood on the platform and I looked across the horizon, and I just thought, this is everything you've ever dreamed of. This is the drive that's been behind you so long. Yeah. And I just felt really unfulfilled.
Wow.
Shortly after that, my wife and I, we were married at the time, and I think it was the next swing back out there, she was dropping me off at the airport, and she started crying. Yeah. And she said, I can't handle you being away all the time. You know, I've moved to this country because I came without my wife, and then she moved over 18 months later.
But you knew her before you moved?
Yeah, we've been together for 22 years now.
Wow,
yeah, married for 10.
Yeah.
And she came over after me, and then when she came over, then we got married on Leighton Beach outside Bibbentucker. Beautiful little spot there.
Yeah.
But she was dropping me back off at the airport, and she started crying because she hated me going away. Yeah. And it was in that point, people say the line in the sand moment, it's like a little bit cheesy, isn't it? But I knew something had to change from that point. And it was at that stage where Facebook was starting to put certain sponsored ads in front of you. Yeah. And a lady called Dimpner Boholt popped up on my screen from I Love Real Estate. And I went along to the Dimpner seminar and signed up on the spot. And we just started implementing the teachings from Dimpner's education. Yeah. And we were just doing like renovation flips at the time, like picking up properties in Medina, Wellard, all them type of low price point areas, making like 30 grand here, 50 grand there sort of thing. It was good, but it was like constant to keep it going.
Well, I guess you had the trade behind you to allow it.
Yeah. So on my R&R, I was coming back, just put my boots on, and I loved it as well. I was like, put Smooth FM on the radio, singing all the old songs, ripping the kitchens out, doing the painting, putting the kitchens back in, putting the flooring down, and making some good money. But we could see that it was never going to get me away from the job that I was doing. Kind of get pulled in with the golden handcuffs, as they say. So then Dimpner was always talking about investing in cash flow positive properties, and it sounded really interesting, but like, as you know, trying to find a cash flow positive asset in Australia in general, unless you go regional, is very difficult. And she was teaching people on the east coast of Australia, along with a guy that she had working with her at the time called Ian Ugarte. Yeah. They were teaching people how to do rooming houses on the east coast, and there was a specific policy in place that said you can do X, Y, and Z in Brisbane, Victoria, not so much New South Wales. But in Perth, we had no sort of definition. It just says if you can have up to 6 unrelated people living in a house without the need to change the classification for anything. So that's where the term HMO came from, house and multiple occupancy, because it's not a rooming house, it's just a house with multiple occupants in it. And we didn't know anybody in Perth that had done this thing, so what we did is we converted our principal place of residence into our first HMO. And we moved in with the mother-in-law because the mother-in-law ended up following her daughter over. So we ended up moving in with the mother-in-law for, it wasn't too long. It was only like 3 weeks because it didn't take us long to fill that house. Yeah. But at the time in Perth, the vacancy rate was like 7%. There was vacant properties everywhere. And there was vacant properties on our street that they couldn't lease for like $425, $450 a week. Yeah. We rented all 4 rooms out in that property for $850 a week. So we doubled the rental income in the middle of a kind of oversupply of rental properties in the market. And that's kind of how it all began.
Yeah, and you saw what the potential was from that property, I'm assuming. Yeah. But going from that property to then the next one and the next one, that's quite difficult. There's obviously capital involved and whatnot. How did you then get it off the ground?
Yeah, we got creative. Very creative. We did a lot of creative financing. We did lease options. We did head leases and stuff like that. And we built the portfolio up to the point where we had 6 properties, generating over $110,000 a year of net cash flow after all expenses. And at that stage, I had enough income to step away from my job, but I didn't because of the golden handcuffs. And I remember sitting with my mentor at the time, and we were at a mastermind in Queensland, and he said, Neil, what do you need help with? And I said, I just feel like I'm not going fast enough. I feel like I should be doing more. And he kind of broke down what we'd achieved in the 2 or 3 years that we'd been working with him. I was like, hey, you're right. And I said, but I can't step away from this job because I'm earning some good money. You know, the best thing that could happen would be getting the sack. Yeah. Kind of putting it out to the universe there. And bizarrely or not, we got back from Queensland Sunday night. I was in work, I think it was like the Tuesday or Wednesday, and I got a tap on the shoulder saying that the contractors that we worked through had lost the seat, and I was losing my job, essentially.
The universe
doing its thing.
Such amazing ways.
It's testing you.
Yeah. And there must have almost been a little bit of relief getting that tap.
Yes, and also a little bit of anxiety as well and nervousness because all my life I'd worked for somebody else. All my life I'd had a steady income. And although this cash flow was coming in, it was from something foreign that I'd never seen work for anybody else before. Where having a paycheck, knowing that you're working for a big oil and gas company, totally different. Yeah. So adjusting to that and having the confidence to know that that money was going to continue to come in was good. But again, with the power of social media, we documented all of the properties that we'd been doing, and we were sharing them into different Facebook groups like Dimter's I Love Real Estate group and various other ones around the Facebook platform. And the response that people were giving me was incredible. So one, I stepped away from the company I was working for at the time, which was Woodside Energy. Yeah. Took a photo, put it on Facebook, and my phone never stopped ringing. People were saying, can you help me convert this existing property that we've got? Can you help us with this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And that started from, we essentially set up a property management business to manage our own portfolio of properties because we couldn't find anybody else to manage them how we wanted them managing. Yeah. Everyone wanted them on the same lease for the same price as everything else in the area, but we wanted individual leases for a third of the price, but combine them together and you're getting double or triple the rent. Yeah. So we set the property management business up, and once we had that and I'd stepped away from the oil and gas industry, we then had a bit of a system where we could renovate people's existing properties and then provide the property management on the back end of it. Yeah. And then people started saying, can you help us find one and then renovate it and then manage it? So then we set up a buyer's agency under the real estate license that we had. I started going out and buying properties for people, renovating them, and then doing that. And we've probably done about 70 or 80 of them. Yeah. And then as, the market matured and more people started looking at what we were doing, and we got more confident in the delivery that we were doing and collected more data from the people that we were housing, we seen that there was a big opportunity in the new build space. Yeah. And we not so much pivoted to that, but we just brought that into the system as well. But right now we do maybe 3 or 4 renovations a year and everything else is new builds.
Yeah, wow. And as we were talking before, mostly, or all in Perth for the time being.
All in Perth Metro currently, yeah. We are expanding into Melbourne as we speak, and we should be ready to start buying land over there probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But so far, we've done over 250 properties in Perth, and that will be, when everything's finished, it'll be about 1,500 rooms.
That's amazing. And there's a part of the story that's obviously entrepreneurial and wanting to build your family wealth and assets, but there's also and talking to you, there's this underlying aspect around trying to also help people, clients, yes, but also the people living in the space that you're providing for them. Because moving over from somewhere else and finding a room is so much easier than finding a house and trying to manage it that way. How do you manage all of those different aspects?
Give me goosebumps as you mentioned that there, because it is, as the business has grown, and it turned from a hobby into a business quite fast. Like when there was just me and my wife, it was very easy for us to manage everything. But when you start hiring people, all of a sudden you need to start. You've got other people relying on you. So this is where the marketing, the podcast, and all that stuff comes from, right? You've just got to continue to feed the machine. Unfortunately, which is what it is now. But in the early days when we were doing our first 6 houses, myself and Joe were meeting the people that were renting the spaces from us. And we quickly found out that these are really, really interesting people, good jobs. Unfortunate for some circumstance, maybe they've gone through a divorce, lost their job, had a death in the family, or just moved from interstate or from a different country altogether, like myself, and didn't have rental history, so couldn't get in the rental market. And also, typically we've been building 4 and 5 bedroom houses, 3, 4 and 5 bedroom houses for many, many years. And a lot of the rental market singles or couples. So I personally feel like we've been building and supplying the wrong stock to the market for the rental market. And I feel like this is why the HMO is becoming more and more popular with the people out there that are renting right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we got to meet some of these people firsthand, and we've seen people skipping down the street because they just got the keys to the house because they'd lost out on these other properties that they couldn't get access to. And that's when it really hit home that we were onto something special. And when we think about both sides of the spectrum, normally an investor would own a property and someone would rent it from them, and there's typically a win-lose scenario there, isn't there? Someone's going to pay a premium at some point, but with our model, it's a win-win-win. Everybody wins, which is incredible in this day and age.
It is, and also especially like housing affordability and is such a key point at the moment, and also how much undersupply we have, and this model just creates just that little bit more supply for people that need it rather than those families. Because I don't imagine families are what you're looking for. As you said, you're looking for those singles or those couples.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're trying to free up the housing stock that's already there by providing a house that can house 6 people instead of a house that potentially a single or a couple are renting, and stopping a family from renting that property as well. And it's kind of increasing density without actually doing that. So we're still buying a standard like 375 square meter block, and we're still putting a standard 230 to 250 square meter house on it, but we're setting it up in a way that 6 people can rent them spaces. And we set them up in a way where they're like micro apartments, so they've got everything in that room, from a double bed and an ensuite to a kitchenette with a fridge, freezer, kettle, toaster, microwave. No fixed cooking equipment because councils are pretty strict on that. But we've got everything in there so that they can wake up in the morning, have their breakfast, watch TV, make a cup of tea, have a shower, and go to work.
Yeah.
But they've also still got a common area with a real kitchen in there with fixed cooking equipment, kitchen down in the living area so they can still go out there and socialise if they want to. So they've got the opportunity to be private or social if they want to as well.
It reminds me a lot of uni housing, like living at university, and like that's just, you want that social aspect, but you also want a bit of the privacy as well.
Yeah, and people always say, is it student accommodation? And it's similar, but a much higher standard. We put so much more in the rooms. The spec and the standard of our houses is a lot different, but in people's minds it helps them imagine what it is, but just a much better standard.
Yeah. And I guess going down that sort of investor path as well, and I know you're really big on this just in what I've consumed around positive cash flow and not being afraid of paying tax on positive cash flow because you're making money, rather than this notion of negative gearing and trying to achieve negative gearing when you are effectively making a loss on purpose in some cases, or wanting to make that loss. Talk to me about your relationship with positive gearing versus, or positively geared property versus negatively geared property.
I don't have a relationship with negatively geared properties. So we, coming from the UK, I had friends that were investing in property, and they were telling me, I make like $1,200 from that one, 15 grand from that one, blah, blah, blah. And then I came over here, and ABN Group were trying to sell me a house and land package in Coburn, where I was going to lose money every month, but it was all right. I was going to save on tax, and I was like, but what happens if I lose my job? And they were like, yeah, you should be fine. You're oil and gas, you won't lose your job. And I was like, but if I do, what happens? And they're like, well, you still need to pay the shortfall on the property. And I was like, okay. And it was at this time when I started getting the stuff from Dimpner, and Dimpner was talking about positive cash flow. And she was saying, if you want to quit your job, you're not going to do that with a negatively geared portfolio. Yes, I believe it's got its place. And if people do want to save tax, that's great. But you're never going to hear Apple or Google or BHP or Rio Tinto saying we should make less money so we can pay less tax. Them guys just focus on maximum profit and then use the tax law and everything else that they've got available and then minimise that tax the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually ran some scenarios on this. So if you earn $100,000, for instance, and you've got a property that's 10 grand a year negative cash flow, and you earn $100,000 and you are $10,000 a year negative cash flow, even after paying tax on that 110 and claiming back the tax on your loss, you're still in a better off position with your positive cash flow property. So my question is always, why would you do that? If you can put these houses next door to each other in the same street, why would you invest in the negatively geared one over the positively geared one? Because it's still a house. It goes up in value like a house. It looks like a house, smells like a house, feels like a house. People live in it like a house. It's called a house of multiple occupancy. It's just got a much higher yield. But I believe that for a long time now we've been conditioned in this country to believe that paying tax is a bad thing. But it's a good thing. It means you're making money, right?
Absolutely. And there's that element of the sugar hit.
Yeah.
You at the 1st of July, you go, oh, you beauty, I get some money back. But the reality is the only money you're getting back is the money you've had to outlay to keep that asset afloat, which obviously, as you said, can be benefits if you're trying to find somewhere that's growing in capital. But if it can be positively geared, that's a winner every day of the week.
And as a mortgage broker, you will know that if every negatively geared property reduces your borrowing capacity, right? So this is why so many people get stuck with just 1 or 2 properties. But some of our clients have got 9 and 10 properties because they got positive cash flow, which increases the serviceability, which means they can borrow more and keep investing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so in terms of that investing, like, who are your typical people that you're helping from an investment perspective?
From the very start of the journey, we've been working with mum and dad investors, everyday Australians that just want to build wealth and set themselves up for retirement. In them early stages, we were working with a lot of people that were underwater in their properties, bought at the peak. Unfortunately, the properties were underwater, they were negative or vacant, and they were struggling to just make ends meet. So we were in the early stages converting a lot of them properties for them and making them positive cash flow. They're still clients of ours today. In the 10 years that I've been doing this, I've only had 5 clients that have unsold their HMOs, and we've sold them like that for them. Like we've never had to advertise the 5 that we've sold because we've got so many people queuing up waiting to invest in them. And some people don't want to go through construction, and some people don't want to spend the money on a renovation. So we've got people literally parked there ready to buy.
Really?
When people sell, and they've been sat there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Just trying to find the stock or being able to build the property they're after.
Yeah, or waiting for somebody to sell because they don't want to go through the construction phase or the renovation phase, or just sat there waiting for somebody to sell. But like I say, it's very, very rare because what else have you got to put your money in? Yeah. You've got an asset that's going up in value and producing cash flow week in, week out.
Absolutely. And the other part of the brains behind the business, your wife,
my beautiful wife,
how, and the context behind this is my wife and I run Task Finance. How do you go about going on this journey together as a unit, as a married couple, as a mum and a dad, and also as business owners?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I see a lot of people that kind of clash, and obviously working with mum and dad investors, we see a lot of people that aren't on the same level, aren't on the same page, which stopped a lot of people from moving forward in their investment journey. Jo and I are very similar but very different at the same time. I'm very methodical and logical, and she's very heart-led. And she's probably the reason that these properties are as good as what they look, because whilst I'm happy to sit in front of a camera and do this sort of stuff, and she is too, I'm also out there speaking to investors and raising capital and showing people how this can be done. But once it comes into the system, she's the one that makes it look as good as they are. Like, we had our planning day just yesterday, and we take all of the team out of the business and we take them to somewhere outside of the office so it doesn't feel familiar. Yeah. And we recap over what we've done over the last 90 days, and then we set our goals for the next 90 days as well. We do that every 90 days. At the start of the year, we set yearly goals and then break them down into 90-day sprints. And yesterday she did a picture where she showed all these different rooms that are available on flatmates.com or anything that she could find online. And she said, what do these rooms make you feel like? And there was some really reputable companies like The Switch, and there's a place in Scarborough called the Tusk or the Task or something. Yeah. And the standard was okay, and then she flipped the screen and she brought up all the properties that we've done, and you were like, wow. And you could just see the pride from everybody on the team because of the standard of housing that we deliver. Yeah. But that also comes down from my wife, because she's the one that has that really good eye. And I mean, look what you married. But yeah, well. But it just works really well. We bounce off with her really well. We can resolve conflict between each other really well. And that comes down to having the right people around you as well. We've got some really good coaches in both business and our relationship as well. So,
and did it take a while to sort of work out your roles within the business, given you both were on this journey from the very start with the company?
Yeah, in the early stages with the renovations, we quite easily found what that was. I was the one out there looking for them, making sure the numbers worked, negotiating on the properties and raising the capital. And my wife was the one that was like, this colour, this sofa, these tiles. And she made sure it looked good. Yeah. And it just worked really well. Sometimes I disagree, but I never win. I can disagree. She's like, I hear you, but you're wrong. And I'm like, right off, fair enough.
All right, so what are we doing?
Yeah. It's like that phrase, isn't it? I wear the pants in this house, she just picks them.
Yeah, I know that all too well. I think there's certainly, like, from that context perspective for us, I know that going through this journey, it is quite difficult, especially trying to navigate the family aspect, the family unit, whilst also being productive business owners. And the wins are so much more meaningful because you are going through the journey on both fronts together. Difficult to separate the two as well, but it is very meaningful, and I don't know who else I'd rather do it with as well, on both fronts. So I don't know whether you have the same sort of reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a business partner now as well, a guy called Troy Felt. Yeah. And as the business grew into the new build phase, Troy was somebody that was, again, seen us on social media, reached out. We caught up for a coffee. He'd been through, he used to be one of the biggest builders in the state at one point, and his building company hit the wall in 2016. And in 2019, 2020, he started helping me with some of the new build designs and speaking to builders and tendering packages and stuff like that. And it got to a stage where we had, 5 or 6 new builds coming through the system, a few subdivisions on the go, a few renovations on the go, a property management team that was growing. And I felt like I was spinning all these plates and doing a really bad job of it. So I sat down with my wife and I said, look, this Troy guy keeps reaching out to me. He's got heaps of experience. He's exactly what we need. How do you feel about me asking him to come on board and partner with us in some way? And she said, yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah. So I reached out to Troy, and Troy said, well, I'm interested, but my wife has to meet your wife, and if they get on with each other, then we're in business. I thought, well, we're in business, mate, because there's not many people that don't get on with my wife. Yeah. And his wife's just as lovely as my wife as well. So the four of us together, really good friends. Yeah. And again, bringing someone in like that to an established business, for some people would be nerve-wracking, but it worked really, really well for us. He just brought this air of calmness and confidence, and it was like having a mentor that, I've paid thousands of dollars for some of my mentors, but it was like having a mentor for free in the business that had been there, done that, got the T-shirt, the blood, the sweat, the tears. And we went from, what were we doing there? A couple of builds, a couple of subdivisions to, building over 180 houses in 1 year last year.
180 houses. Yeah. Times by probably 3 or 4 occupants. Is that
anywhere from like 3 to 6? So 6 the biggest, which is how we ended up with 1,500-ish rooms, I think it is,
Yeah.
1,490 something.
No wonder you had to change your goal from 1,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
You achieved it in 12 months.
Yeah. Well, we did. We read a book called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, and they talk about doing a big, hairy, audacious goal. Yeah. And at that time, we had the 1,000-room goal, and we were saying, is that really big and hairy, audacious enough? Yeah. So we put the extra 0 on the end, and look, we're giving it a good crack. Will we get there? Who knows? But we're on target based on the projections that we reviewed in the planning day just recently.
Yeah. But even if your goal is 10,000, you get 9,500. Still a hell of a lot better than 1,000.
It's a fail. No, I'm joking. Yeah, we're very proud of the business that we've got. We're proud of the product that we bring to the market. We're very proud of the team that we've created. Yeah. And, if we get to 6,000, that's 6,000 people with housing that they didn't have access to previously. Yeah. Clean, safe, affordable housing in areas that they want to live for a price that they can afford to pay. So, yeah.
Well, as you know, your reader clearly, Brian Tracy is all about the written goal, and once it's in writing.
I actually met with a billionaire not too long ago, right? First billionaire I'd ever met, and then I met another one about 3 months later, which I thought was a little bit weird.
Similarities?
No, totally different. The first one I met with, mid-60s, mining guy, made a shitload of money, excuse my French. Came to my office, and within about 2 minutes he was talking about the law of attraction and putting it out there to the universe, and I was like, I did not expect this to come out of your mouth. Like, big guy. Yeah. Like I say, been in mining all his life, and he said to me, what are you trying to achieve? And I told him, and this guy just doubles everything. He's like, 10,000, why not 100,000? And I'm like, man, I'm struggling with 10, Like,
we only just added 1 0.
Yeah, and he sat there and he looked me square in the eye and he said, the first thing you got to do is you got to put it out to the universe, and the universe is going to test you. And he goes, and if you get through that test, things will happen. He goes, there's been times when I've got myself in situations and I thought, how am I going to make this happen? And he goes, and it's happened. And he goes, and don't get me wrong, you can't just sit there and expect it to happen, but first you got to put it out there, and then you got to work towards it.
Well, you already did that when you met your mentor in the Gold Coast and said, what am I going to do about the job? And then a couple of days later, it was a tap on the shoulder.
Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah.
The universe has this weird way. And like, if I go back 10 years ago and you said the universe has weird ways of showing you these things, I'd said, stop it. Yeah. I'm an electrician. I don't believe in all this stuff. But as the journey I've been on has transpired, I've realised more and more the power of putting it out there. Yeah. The universe is there's definitely something out there bigger than us that's pulling us in the direction that we want to be in.
And is that how the podcast started?
The podcast started, I had a podcast before the one I've got now called the Perth Entrepreneurs Podcast. And I, as the property thing was growing, I wanted to be around more business owners to learn more about business, because I realised I knew absolutely nothing about it. And then I also thought to myself, I could potentially tap into their networks, or they could become clients themselves. So I met with some great people like Rick Hart, Andrew Ford from Ford and Doonan. I had some like really, really good business owners and entrepreneurs on that podcast. And then as the business was growing, people were saying, well, why has he got a business podcast? Why hasn't he got a property podcast? And it was just like one of them, oh my God, why have I got a business podcast and a property podcast? So we shut that one down, and 2 days later I launched the HMO Property Show. And yeah, it's that really helped the business with more and more people coming in.
And what have you learned from being a podcast host or a podcaster?
Done is better than perfect. Yeah, like I think a lot of people stress and worry about what people are going to perceive of them when they put it out there. And like, I'm under no imagination that not everybody's going to like me, and I'm cool with that, right? Yeah. So I think the minute you can get over that and just put the content out there, it will attract the right people in that need to see it. So yeah, done is better than perfect. So don't try and get everything 100% right. Just get it out there and see what happens.
See what happens. Going more personal, how's your life changed, or your view of life changed having kids?
Yeah, we challenges. I mean, previously before I had kids, you could work as long as you wanted. It was great.
So much more selfish with your time.
Yes, so much more selfish, and I am still relatively selfish as well, and I'm aware of that. But what I now understand is I've got 8 hours a day now at work that I have to get as much done as I can. So I'm more ruthless with my time at work. But I also know that if I want to go to the gym, I've got to get up and do that before everyone else gets up. So my day starts at 4:45 every morning. I'm up, I meditate, I go to the gym, and I'm back in the house for 7 o'clock when wife and kids are getting up. I have breakfast with my family every morning, and I leave the house at 8:30, and I'm back in the house at 5 o'clock.
It sounds exactly the same as my day.
It's just like super structured, right? And as an entrepreneur, you'd think that you don't want to be that structured, but that structure actually gives you the freedom that you need.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's certainly a lot of moments in our lives anyways that I just don't want to miss the unmissable. And breakfast for us is where that all happens. Dinner is more of we're just trying to get through the last bit. Breakfast is beautiful, dancing and all that sort of stuff, and then dinner is just, we're both holding fort, just trying to get through.
It's like in 5, dinner, 5:30, 6 o'clock, bath, bedtime books, and then it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you're like, wow, 10 minutes to ourselves. I'm in bed for 9 o'clock, obviously, because I get up so early. So during the weeks they're pretty structured. The weekends I try and keep them as free as I can, and I actually love having nothing in my diary on a weekend because I love just spending time around the house with the kids and my wife as well. Yeah.
And does your view on the business change in terms of what you're trying to achieve within the business?
Not really. The goal is still there. The 10,000 room target's always been there. We've got an incredible team now. It's took us a lot of, like, not wrong hires, but the right people for the right time. But I think as the business grew, we've outgrew them people, and then we've obviously had to replace them with more experienced people. So I don't think anything has changed per se in the business because everybody knows exactly what they need to do now. And it's last week I went to Dunsborough for 4 days. I went on Wednesday, came back on Sunday, and it's fantastic just knowing that I've got everybody there to just take care of everything. And my job really in the business now is this, sitting in front of a microphone or sitting in front of a camera, creating content so that people can learn more about who we are and what we do and how we help people like them achieve financial freedom.
Yeah, and how do people find you on that note?
If you Google me, you'll pop up, no doubt. But I prefer Facebook, but the team have really started hammering LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, Instagram just lately. So Neil Gibb, HMO Property, or the HMO Property Co. And then, the podcast is the HMO Property Show. That's on YouTube and all of your normal podcast channels. So I think, did you say we're 140 something?
143,
143 Yeah. So again, that's a journey in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. You find out a lot about yourself and other people, but a lot about yourself when you do it.
Especially when you're doing them on yourself as well. You surprise yourself with how much you actually know.
Well, hopefully. I love sort of rounding out the discussion around being proud of ourselves. I know your little ones aren't quite at that stage yet in terms of voicing it probably, but our 5-year-old, we really encourage her to tell us what she's proud of, and it's beautiful to hear, and quite simple as well. But we don't do it as adults much, and so I'd love to hear from you around what you're most proud of, professionally, personally, whatever it might be. What are you most proud of?
Yeah, I'm very proud of myself, of who I've become. The person I am today compared to who I was 10 years ago is totally different, and the person I'll be in the next 10 years will probably be totally different too as we continue to learn, and personal development and stuff. Coaches and mentors in my life will always be helping me. I'm incredibly proud of my relationship with my wife and my 2 beautiful kids, and then obviously the relationship with my business partner and the business that we've created and continue to create, and the team that we've got there as well, and the people that we help. So I'm very proud of who I am and what we do.
It's so special. And the amount of people that you're helping.
Yeah, we've housed over probably 2,000 people now. We think about the how long the business has been going, and people moving in and out of housing and stuff, and then the investors. So probably 2,500.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're helping people get shelter, which is our basic need, but also people building their wealth.
Yeah, we've had clients quit the jobs, retire early. We had one couple that had this is why I'm against negatively gearing. They had a negatively geared portfolio. 2 of them, he had a triplex in Coburn, Spearwood. Negatively geared, this guy within his 80s still driving a forklift truck to cover the shortfall in his, not in his 70s, he was in his 80s, late 70s, driving a forklift truck to still make cover the shortfall on that property portfolio. And he seen me at a seminar, and we converted 2 of the houses, took them from negative to positive, and 2 weeks later he quit his job and never worked since.
Really?
Yeah. And every time he sees me, he gives me a big hug. He's like, mate, you've changed my life. And I'm like, you changed your life by just agreeing and taking the punt. Because this is in the early days when we'd done a handful of properties, 10, 15 properties maybe. Yeah. And we didn't really have the track record or the reputation or the brand that we've got now. And for someone of that age to take a punt on someone like me, on these properties that he got, on a strategy that he knew nothing about, that's where the magic is. That inspires me. And I'm so glad that they did that, because now he gets to sit back and relax and enjoy his life.
Yeah, it's one of those amazing things that you're not saving lives, but you're definitely making lives, and you're changing them. It's amazing.
And yourself, I mean, I'm sure you've helped many people get access to investment opportunities and even get access to their own house as well. I mean, how's that make you feel?
It's very similar. It's especially when they've been told no. I get so much satisfaction out of particularly single mums, or like single mums. I get a lot of satisfaction from, but also just people that don't think they could do it. They're the ones that, as soon as you sit in front of them and you look at it and go, yeah, of course you can do this. That's like, of course you can. And then you just see them, same thing that you're talking about. They skip out of the room and go, I haven't felt anyone believe in me for a long time. And so I think that's where you get a lot of your kicks from, where you know that you look at it just slightly differently. And as you said, that's when the magic happens. So, yeah.
We've got a value at the company that is we celebrate wins and victories, because as business owners and entrepreneurs, we just churn through goal after goal after goal, and these small things that people skipping away, they should be celebrated, right? Because that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And I mentioned it we have a team meeting every day, just really short ones, but last Friday it just felt like it's just the constant churn, but you're actually helping these amazing people. And we had 11 approvals last Friday in the business. Wow. 11 people had formal approvals. And by the end of the team meeting, I was like, okay, all right, what are we doing for Monday? And you're like, actually, why don't we celebrate those 11 people that got formal approvals? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's massive.
So yeah, celebrating the wins, and also looking at the losses for growth. But yeah, we don't celebrate the wins as much. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I've loved this, and I'm excited to see where this journey goes together as well.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, mate. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of our community at That Backyard Property Podcast. We would love it if you could like, comment, or even share with a family member or a friend that might get something useful from today's episode. We can't wait to see you again next Tuesday.